Okay, hi, it's Chris. I just want to give you a little update about what's going on in the political capital of crazy right now in Washington. I have been totally taken over by military disadvantage. You can look me up on fec.gov. The Trump administration has formally about 3 months ago started working on a national security intervention, which means Google, and they keep saying, well, do they have monopolies, or do they? They do actually have a monopoly on me. I've showed the documentation before. Like I said, anytime someone has a declaration of inmate filing, and it says 28 USC 1746, that means that, and you see the corporation name there, you see that, that means that they want to execute you. And this has been going on now for almost 5 years. And the biggest problem that I have is that Google is involved, Apple, Facebook, and Amazon, and then you have, of course, Adobe and IBM and Oracle. And Lieutenant General James Mattis has taken over with General Dynamics to ensure the Nevada Black Ops indictment from his time as Secretary of Defense, that leaving was a big mistake for Donald Trump's White House. As you've heard General John Kelly come out and say, you don't need to get a yes man. You've got a serious political problem with national security leadership and change and strategy. Lieutenant General Paul Nakasone, I have several complaints. Actually, I've probably called about 90 times, and I probably got about 13 complaints on the Lieutenant General, because he has weaponized national security and the fake news media. And all of this uranium one talking, the Trump impeachment strategy, to what they're doing to me, and this, I'm always referred to as this for some reason. I feel like a human shield. So the Lieutenant Generals came out, he's pledged his allegiance to the deep state. He's a Obama birther, magnet, and he's got a really nasty set of individuals over there with trying to promote the old couple of people's personal preferences and sexuality. With Tim Cook was not even a promotion for gay cancer back before he started torturing me in 2014. And so the Ellen DeGeneres thing, these people need to get a private personal preference for a lawyer before they come after other businesses with monopolies, because they've been trying. Really, actually, business has been out of the corporate. Back in March, I was put through the rule of law. There was a National Security and Defense Department strategy with assuming what's happened over the FBI and Peter Strzok, the Lisa Page events, Bruce and Nellie Orr, Andrew McCabe, James Comey, Rod Rosenstein, and numerous other officials at the Justice Department. There's now a November 20th report out. I don't know if you've seen it on the Inspector General's report at the DOJ. You can look at it. It says all reports, and it's challenges facing the government over FISA. If you've known, as of late, they have rebuked and revoked the FISA. They've done so much to me. They've came after this. This is such a thing that they got to go after. They've got to tackle. There's not a sports event in the world that a commentator would really love to get into. But going back into what I was saying, you can't just go back on a national security phase where you have a FISA and you have a national security defense of a bulk strategy of a global satanic cabal, And that means that basically when Obama's administration first got attacked in my community, the Obama administration, the people and the friends in the circle that he's into will let them do anything. Chris Christie was a ploy. He was illegally prosecuted. And I'm formally coming out on this because I'm the person that is not a political actor. And I do not take part in political acts. I'm not an actor. I've had Ashcroft versus Iqbal used against me, as you know. And I want to tell you, Hillary Clinton emails were brought out immediately after that. Should tell you something. The $600,000 bank speech. Bernie Sanders mentioned that later on, but I mean, this is really mentioned several times. Don't put your freaking bullshit on me, man. And as of April, Lieutenant General Nakasone came out and weaponized and made it easier for the Obama administration to basically hold a sway of privacy and power up until John McCain. Everything was a revenge episode. It's very, you must have a very fluid background of torture. Because he's got some kind of military-industrial complex to where, I don't know if you've heard Bill Barr's speeches as late, and I've had to call the OLC, and I'm a whistleblower in the Department of Justice, a real whistleblower. I'm a real whistleblower. I'm not your fake Sierra Mello or Mark Zaid vein that's eating away at carbon and trying to go into the inflation ring. I don't think that they're going to get much out of that one. These people have milked and provided them money. They've tried to solicit this Apple Corporation, which is using soliciting sex to minors on a 37-year-old and juveniles. In substance, they have tried to change it from Russia because I have a hammer monopoly. You got to understand, they're using an education lawsuit, but they've tortured me with techniques, different things of radio microwave frequency, a lot of neurological linked, wired, processed, illegal sexual criminal activity, using Texas versus the United States because of who I used to see. A lot of women have been having problems. There's not a lot of polygraphs to where they can attach anything to me to where there's no one else that's going to be able to bring a substantial case over the cases that the government is using weapons of mass destruction at right now. Trump should have listened to John Kelly, should have listened to James Mattis. He must have a very distraught, very frustrated briefing in the morning, and the people that are surrounded. I know he doesn't have 20, 30 years of intelligence experience. He's a businessman, but the problem is with Donald Trump is that he doesn't understand one of the deep state's biggest weapons is that blackmail, mass MK Ultra, mercenary and assassination, Mockingbird, Operation Paperclip, Operation Mockingbird, and of course the MK Ultra project, which has weaponized banks and global currencies. And I've got 10 or 11 to 12 of them on me, I should know. And there's been a ramping up with the North and South Korean war. I've got a nuclear agreement with Iran because of my neighbors. And I rarely get to talk and actually feel like myself. And it comes to find out whenever that happened, as of late, the National Security Director has got numerous complaints. He has been trying to be some kind of personal prioritized lawyer for Apple or the Justice Department suit that I have. And I've got a tariff case from the Federal Circuit Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit. There's a very corrupt judge based off of pure evil. It's very easily to work these people through the system that they provided. And one of the deep state's biggest weapons, as I was saying earlier, that the Trump administration doesn't understand, he's a businessman, to take out business. When they use a person with that type of lawsuit, and they're trying to take down that type of, trying to use me, and there's so many other suits that are spread out across the government. They have their rights. These big fights happen throughout the government after national security it came out on these issues, which they should go back, they should change leadership, because Google is de-weaponized and Trump is not firing the national security director, and there's this fight, and then they'll show that they can't use the Nevada Black Ops indictment on the Gang of 22, which is George Soros, David Rockefeller, John Brennan, George H.W. Bush, John McCain, John Kerry, Bandar bin Sultan, Brzezinski, I think, Hillary Rodham Clinton, Barack Obama, and Brent Snowcraft and Edgar Brofman, the dentistry that has been in the government here as of late. And I don't exactly know why that I'm not getting the help that I should in the government. The Republicans have been whistling around and acting as if these impeachment inquiries, they've got an article to strike and kill. And I just showed you the document. Trump has had wiped off assassination, death threats, and what, maybe they could plan to do in 2016. He uses me through the markets based on how much things go. And I'm not a human shield. And I've tried to get Trump to listen to me so many times. And I feel like that he listens to me, but he doesn't understand the repercussions of what they're doing. These people will assassinate everything and anything, from going back to using me, if they can, to try to say, well, they'll kill the Justice Department change in leadership. If they can kill me, that would do them great. They need to print this case with the banks and the State Department, the Treasury Department, the Fed Reserve, and the Justice Department, the corrupt leadership, the Robert Mueller investigation, the Hammer monopoly. And the Hammer project was a project, they keep on saying it's computer. It's basically they called themselves the Vulcans. This is in a lawsuit that I have in the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals right now, that I'm asking a request for the rule of law to be paid attention to, because John Roberts doesn't want to impeach himself. And I went through the rule of law over John Roberts with the injectors, the electronic gas chamber, and there was a whistleblower named Bradley Podleski who was killed after I was put through, saying that they could not run me for any elections. I remember all the email drops that they did in the mainstream media of the 22,000, the 5,000, the 22, the 2,500, the 7,500. Basically adds up around 33,000 emails. And these people want to take out business. They want to use the business corporations as a leverage for not only taking out what Obama did, covering up for Bush and the deep state, and going on through Clinton and trying to buy the primary, the general election. They want to use the FISA, which Mike Rogers had a great, and Richard Legend had a great defense. Several leaders in that, very tip-top leaders in the government, they do not want to kill over cell phones. What they view is taking on a challenge of how the government should handle a very serious situation, as if a government overthrow was to occur. And there was excellent leadership there. And I've been abandoned. People have left me to die. They've tried to switch over to sports entertainment. Fox has pushed off a monopoly, and it's kind of devastating there, because I mean they've got sports entertainment kind of trapped there with wrestling, and that, people watch that, and that's a big show, and it's multi-millions of fans, and there's been mobilization all over. basketball, football. They want to go back on the whole sports and sponsoring agenda. Anything else that they can throw in there, even throw in cornhole if they could get enough attention for it. And that's basically what's happening right now. There's not really a big polygraph scenario to where you're going to be able to polygraph a bunch of people that they cause problems, because their business is not sustainable. It's not sustainable. Even the Syria, the quagmire, sustainability is all business that was involved. It is not sustainable still. And they put out these articles to strike, obstruction of Congress. They changed the witch hunt to witching with the Clintons, and I got to be witched, and like I'm a bunch of witches in Ukraine for another business, and no one is doing anything about what they're trying to play. And the word play is a very serious word whenever it comes to your life. You're taking care of people that you love, don't want to see them getting hurt, your family. And I don't need your spit shit about what you think, anything that you would have a personal preference of a lawyer about. And I've got to look out for people. I know I'm worth a lot of money. There's a couple of guidelines set in the government that allows the government to still keep functioning. In those issues of the Nevada Black Ops indictment, they cannot run the prison system out of Nevada. At my home, I don't have a prison number. They can't run it out of West Virginia Women's Prison System for opioid manufacturing. They can't do it out of the Second Circuit Court of Appeals. Now, the Lieutenant General and the Clintons have conspired. They've killed Epstein. They took him out. They killed the man. And there's a man on the payroll, and he will kill me if they keep, fuck you, man. If he keeps the military as an excuse to play to people that are taking out articles to strike to benefit another business for another indictment, for playing espionage and counterintelligence actor from a corrupt Justice Department change in leadership. Now you've got the FBI involved. They're looking at Title 18, 2381, possibly 86 and 85, recruiting communications, political communication scams and scandals to wire the courts, to gain corruption, to use. I mean, there's patents out there. I'm going to tell you like this, guys. They've used this cell phone agenda of mine for, I think, the last attempt. The computer plans, the hard drives, the television, the cinematography, getting all the actors involved. They don't want to die from their homes over these campaigns, promoting suicide. And I have proof, because they relocked me back up. They can't do that again. They've handled judicial misconduct in a case of probably about five times since 2017. And business does not want to take their own businesses out. They don't want to go back to 9/11. And these people, all they want is chaos and destruction. They just want to destroy everything. And why Donald Trump would play chicken with me by using a hostage-ized civilian in a court system, a court of law now, to where they've got to get rid of this. They don't need someone stalking to buy another election. Joe Biden's got hundreds of voters that show up at rallies. Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, they have thousands. And Donald Trump has thousands of voters. They don't need that kind of confliction to play chicken. But what they're doing, they do not need military elections. There's not a fake news to weaponize. There's not a fake news to be unstable. There's not a fake news to say, well, the military's generating an area to where they feel like that they're in an area to kill. And Mark Esper is not in the greatest position right now from Patrick Shanahan and what they have done about getting rid of the general leadership in the government. And James Mattis has already zapped Nakasone twice. And that's a big one. Whenever you have the military contract and they don't, this is basically to hold off any type of attempts of business There's not a process for the deep state like there is civilians. You can't hostagize civilians. And I hope that the public listens to me, because it's the market is inflation inevitable and deflation inevitable. The national security director is useless. The military is useless when it comes to these areas. Holding me hostage for hammer monopoly, which is created to take down the Russian economy back in the 89 and 92. I spoke about it earlier. George Bush, Condoleezza Rice, and a couple of other people. You can find this. You can find this stuff online. There were Vulcans, and they've continued this with Richard Cheney and Dick Cheney and all of this, and with Gorbachev, to decline the ruble, devaluate the ruble, sanction the government, promote war, and even perhaps assassinate another. And you can't cause artificial warfare. It's not a promotion to go into the Hamburgs and the Bush Nazi camp and leniency there, to where they've had Hillary Clinton and Obama, and now Joe Biden is his big chance. He can get up there and promote a government to where we already have an unstable economy, because we are the innovative creators of building on vaccines, signing executive vaccines to global vaccinations for experimental purposes. Barack Obama signed these. They advertised them. These are vaccine corporations like Merck and GlaxoSmithKline, but the military really doesn't have any side contractors within that. They really did not create any of those things. And when business starts a military campaign and they're investing in all of these artificial tissues about using CENTCOM, CSS, and DARPA projects, Russian elections with Apple and Facebook, freezing oil assets, which makes Bush, it hits his pocket a little from the higher gas prices. So they start having these wars, and then they invest in the artificial technology, so they all win there, but nothing on the public. And there's not a big feminism plan to kill all the to kill everyone's sex life. They cannot have anything to kill people's sex life. And that's another thing that is not a platform for what they're doing with the military. They cannot keep someone on the payroll to make themselves look like that they are trying to overthrow the government again. If you look up Title 18 USC 2381, remember that, Title 18 USC 2381, look up those numbers: 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, and 90, all the way up to congressional family leave. I don't know how that one got in there. This sounds like a very corrupt way of doing things. And you've got to think, these people funded Syrian weapons campaigns. They made a policy based on the climate culture, and this is something that people can't go back. These are struck down. I've been through the Supreme Court 4 times, and the deep state just wants to. There's not a person that you can use, because there's officials in the government doing something to me is not going to bring those indictments down, and is not going to make your legacy any better through the Trump White House. And these things will probably come out later. I don't know what's going to happen in the Senate. I'm a Senate Judiciary whistleblower. I don't know what Chuck Grassley's doing. He's been sitting around acting like that he's still challenging that they're not doing anything. They can't reconstruct. He's not challenging their new technique tortures that they can't use. He's not writing the Trump administration on firing their intelligence issues like they were challenging back in the Obama administration. And they're not hiring and keeping good people in office. And they should be working on doing that. the government has to survive, education has to survive, the vaccines, executive action, they have to take and de-weaponize the government. They have to get rid of the problems. Start with good legislature. Start with the unrigging elections. There's no need to rig an election. And I hope that the things that I'm telling you today, it will do you better about knowing better of what's going on in the government. The fake news is not doing very well from the MSNBC analysis of John Brennan, knowing what's going on in the Justice Department with Durham, and knowing that he's looking into people that are already indicted. And James Clapper's a little different story there, but mainly they can't keep trying to fuck over the justice system and kill it for subordinates. They can't just keep fucking the population over. And there's not a depopulation method to do that. I mean, they're trying to kill for antibiotics right now. I've had to report the Zantac problem. That came from me whenever they were recalling my doctor's office, the Zofran. I've had to report Prilosec, and they can't go after me over antibiotic 500 milligram. I had to go for a heart check. I'm having to go for a neck check and throat. Hope I don't have any lung problems because I don't need to be on one of their nebulizers hooked up in national security tracking based on what people view. And there's no reason to algorithm and place people in domains and houses and cause so many different types of innovative problems and then threaten people with disease. This man is he's out of his goddamn mind, and they have to fire and get rid of him. And I hope the things that, like I said about Epstein earlier, will give you an idea that you cannot use a different process of law like the Nazi German prison camp that humans don't have. Civilians don't have the same. We're not world planners. Have not been plotting for years of mass destruction, take down the Twin Towers. Remember, those towers were taken down to hide the Hammer Papers and some of the other Vulcan issues in the Pentagon, and enabling the danger of child porn and trafficking in the military tribunal executive actions, the Nevada Black Ops indictment, the military trafficking human persons and property, the soliciting to it from a ruble and a Chinese Supreme Court. So now they're trying to play witching Ukraine with another business. So they've got to stop. And I hope you listen to me today, and I hope you gain some knowledge, because I mean, I go through the most in-depth news and political parties being out of touch with what's really going on in political society, which is what they're not telling the people and the public. And businesses in the fake news media should ante up these cases. They should ante up the cases of mine, and they should come out on the whistleblower status that I am, because they've already killed Bradley that was on MSNBC back in 2016. And I'm worth a lot of money, and then there's a lot of people involved, and there's not someone that they're going to want to go to act like that they're going to really want to mess with over that. And there's not a reason for the Trump administration to act like the military is in a position of sponsoring terrorism for payrolls and striking another person because based on what they know and what they know about him and the deep state. And this, you cannot have someone come after and try to recruit to overthrow the government after 9/11 Black Ops. Again, this is Christopher Lee Johnson. I'm reporting to you. Please go to my YouTube site. They don't have to look at my music theme to be killed, but these people have crazy things of what they've done over the years with shooting up concerts and blowing up France. And I'm just from a little small community, and it's amazing what people can do off the big acting, mass murdering themes that they've been using for years, and going back and reconstructing Iraq and then trying for the Kurds again. And there's nothing that going up and down in this market right now that they're going to be able to be of use to inflation, deflation, and tranquility and liquidity. And I hope you're listening to me. God bless you, and have a good one. Have a good day, and I'll see you next time.